Hi, this is Rob Day with That's My Entertainment. We're here at the Sublime Primetime Writers Guild event 2019, and we're going to have some great interviews coming up, and stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. Congratulations on an epic predecessor to Breaking Bad.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's we never would have imagined that a prequel to Breaking Bad would get this much excitement. We really thought it was going to be after MASH or somewhere in there where people just like, okay, that's maybe interesting, or why am I watching this? But no, people are really sticking with it, and it's really a Bob Odenkirk, as coming from that comic background. He really brings the dramatic chops. I mean, he really, if not for him and his ability, this thing would never work.
Well, it is working. So I guess that brings up to my other question is what is the secret to keeping such a high standard for such an epic show with Better Call Saul?
Thank you for saying that. The writers really try their hardest to have the stories make logical sense, and we always stay in the characters' heads and go beat by beat and wonder, what does Jimmy want next? We just think that with every character and move forward, and it's just the same thing we did on Breaking Bad. Always staying in the characters' heads always worked for us, and as long as we in the writers' room put together a story and are happy with it, we don't try to concern ourselves too much with, are we going to please the audience or the networks or who? As long as we are laughing or surprised at the story, then we're just hoping that the audience goes along with that.
Well, congratulations on a great show and
Thank you
great,
so
bright future. What do you think is the most important thing about taking a true real-life story, especially something as important as this, and adapting it to film or television?
I think the most important thing is to find a way to make those stories honest and cinematic. So being able to tell a story that is really something that really happened and find the spirit of it, the truth of it, so that everybody understands they're watching a true story, but they're also engaged in it because we're telling the story in a way that stories are meant to be told. That's the most important thing.
Okay.
It's easy to take real life. We can take our conversation and turn it into but no one's going to watch that. No one cares about that. But the idea is to turn these real life things into compelling drama, and that's the most important thing you can do.
Okay, awesome. I got one other question.
Sure.
What do you think? What drew you to this very important story, or to be a part of this?
Yeah. Listen, Ava asked me to do it, so if Ava asked me to do it, I'm probably going to do it anyway. but with this kind of thing, though, it was just important because, again, I'm close to those guys' age, and I could imagine something like that happening to me at the time. But I also have a son who I could still see that happening to today. So it's important to me that the world knows that this is something that still goes on and it went on. And, if you can be a part of telling a story that can help people, you got to be a part of that story, and that was a great opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right. So now that you've done writing, producing, acting, directing, out of all things, what was the one thing that really got you, that really was your biggest accomplishment out of all those accomplishments?
I'm going to cheat and I'll give you two answers. Okay. I think Bob's Burgers for me was the first time I found a family sort of in the industry, which is really rare, and I would say most people don't find that. Even over a course of a long career, you may never find that. But I found a real family there at Bob's Burgers. That writing staff is truly, truly my home. Secondarily, I would say as an actor, I got a chance to be in the film Milk. And not often do you get to be part of a movie that is more than entertainment and means more to the world and to history. And so I still have to hold that up as a pretty special moment. But there's lots of them. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on all your successes and many more successes to come.
Thank
all
you so
right.
much. Nice
Thank you. Nice to meet you. congratulations
much.
on a
Appreciate it.
magnificence. I mean,
Thank you.
especially with politics being such a hot button. If there was any other way you could have ended the series, how would you have done it? If there was another way to do it?
There's no way. There's as a writer, there's very little in my sort of life where I can say to you like, oh, I'm happy with everything about it. I am very happy with every moment of the finale of Veep. It is exactly the way I wanted it. No, just not even a question.
And what was your favorite moment about this season?
I have to say I loved, because Julia is so likable, I loved seeing how unlikable we could push Selena, where the audience was still weirdly rooting for her, and yet she's horrible.
That is so awesome. Well, congratulations on an epic finale.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Cool.
It's been a story that's been retold, and you're doing a magnificent job. So, what was the most important thing about in your view, about getting this story out, or what you wanted to get across?
You know, I feel like Natasha is an incredibly human person. She has a tremendous humanity in her that I feel like you can see on screen, and we can certainly feel in the writer's room. And she was really telling a story that was very personal to her in many ways, and is reflected for so many of us, and the spirals and cycles we have in our lives that we struggle to get out of. And what was exciting to me and important to me was seeing someone like Natasha tackle this, and seeing it hopefully to relate to other people, and having a very, very flawed female main character who's a mess and who does things the wrong way, and is yet charismatic and lovable. And I feel like a lot of times you hear that your characters need to be, quote unquote, likable. And I know, it's so interesting to see someone who does all the wrong things and is so acerbic and difficult, and how that can be really likable too. So that was exciting to me and important.
Well, you've done a magnificent job and so unique. Thank you for taking your time to be with us. All right. This is very relevant when it comes to the Me Too movement and everything. So congratulations on being able to tell that. Were you ever, or any of the other writers, ever worried about restrictions when you were putting the stories out?
Definitely not. I mean, I really credit our creative partners at MGM and Hulu for being incredibly supportive. Holly in particular is very much a female story. It's a woman giving birth alone, and it's told in a very, we hope, very authentic and vulnerable and raw way. And they absolutely support us all along the way. So when you read the book The Handmaid's Tale, that you're in for certain types of challenging material. But they and also Margaret Atwood, who's a producer on the show, she reads our scripts, which is very intimidating, I can tell you, have been incredibly supportive as we've been wanting to tell June's story.
Well, congratulations. I do believe you've accomplished that. Thank you for taking the time.
That's my entertainment. What's yours?
So your story's actually ingenious. You go from one place, go all the way across, and somehow you bring the audience back to square one. How amazing. How do you guys, when you write the show, keep everything in perspective?
First of all, I think we're just, we're all really, the writer's room has actually held together pretty well over the course of all 4 seasons. We have a lot of continuity and a lot of people, and also fresh voices that come in all the time. So, Mike sure does an amazing job of making sure that his room is just really invested in what's happening with these pretend people. And, so I think we're just always trying to write towards the things that we want to see. And, in some cases that's an absolutely insane journey, and other times it's just like, 2 people reading a book that they like. So, I don't know. If people come along for the ride, that's the best part.
We're enjoying your ride. Do you have anything to add?
A big part of, I think, what kept things moving in the way you're describing was that Mike always had the idea of, as soon as the audience has a sense of where we are, to move on and never stay in one place for very long. And we would chart out a lot of the big moves of what would happen kind of before breaking most of the rest of the stories, and those linchpins were kind of always in place. And I think it's, thanks to his vision that it felt like you never knew what was going to happen next.
Well, guys, amazing story. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. The truth of the story. What was important about getting the truth for both of you?
The truer it is, the more exciting it is, because God has a better sense of imagination than we have. And the reality of the life in upstate New York is something that we wanted to be able to capture and not just make a background of, simple country folk, but really concentrate on what are the issues of that prison economy and how it extends to the whole county.
Yeah, and I would just say, cable drama, the anti-hero is all over the place, but they're usually made-up anti-heroes. Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't have anti-heroes, but we did have 3 people who did really bad stuff in their life. And you need to balance. You don't want to judge them too much, but you want to get underneath who were these real people? Why did they do the things that they did? And can you tell a totally honest, unvarnished version of their life story and have people be engaged by that? Could we get engaged by that? That's difficult to do, and that's what we always strove to do.
Well, it seems like you guys have done that very well. So congratulations. Okay, let's start from the concept. What is it like to go from beginning, from concept to creation to development to the actual writing to getting it on the set?
Many years.
7 years.
7 years.
Right?
From conception, I would say 7 years.
Yeah. 7 long years.
But I mean, it started in my living room with me, Anna, and Sam, the third creator, for, I would say about 4 years, meeting on and off to create it, rewrite it. And then we made a presentation because we would go into meetings and talk about it, and people would say, this is not possible, this is illegal, what are you doing with kids on screen, I don't think this could work. And then so we made a presentation and then pitched it from there, and then now we're making it. It's wild.
And it's changed a lot, through the first iteration. I remember our very first pilot, which is nothing like the pilot we have now. We had a bunch of our friends in your living room come over. It was probably 20 people, and everyone's actors and writers. I think we had 40 characters, which probably actually isn't that different from the pilot that we ended up with. And at the end we were like, does anyone have notes? And everyone's hand went up, and we're like, cool, we're still working on this. So we've had time to hone it in.
Thank God it took this long to make, actually, because it wouldn't have been what it is today. Yeah,
I agree.
Well, that's awesome. Now, I got to ask you guys, on the set, were you there, and was anything changed on the fly?
Everything.
We were there all day. Everything changed all the time because we would run out of hours for the kids, or we'd lose a location, or we'd have to just rewrite on the day.
Yeah, and we had 4 days of shooting, and it was pretty low budget for TV, and so it was always kind of looking at the scenes and seeing how could we do the emotional beats or story beats or whatever and make it more concise, which I think it ultimately made the show better, but it was hard. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your nomination, and congratulations for a bright, bright future that you're going to have, and the awards you haven't got yet that you will get. All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right. How do you keep everything in perspective with all the crazy situations your character goes through?
Well, we kind of write it all down on this giant whiteboard, and we try to make it all, track in someplace. And then mostly it's just kind of just telling it to yourself and telling Alec Berg and I and the writers just continually telling it to each other and tracking it and being like, does this make sense? Is this... You're constantly trying to get macro and micro, and you always want to sometimes be like an audience member to your own idea and kind of go, well, that doesn't really make sense. So sometimes you need a lot of distance, and then other times you need to be in the weeds.
Well, congratulations. What is the future for this character? Where are you going to take him in the next seasons?
I have no idea, man. In 2 weeks, I go into an office with Liz Sarnoff, one of our writers, and we're just going to start with a blank whiteboard and go, all right, what do you think happens in season 3? And we're going to just start figuring it out. and I'm going to start pulling my hair out again.
We had some great interviews here at the Sublime Primetime event 2019 with the WGA. This is Rob Day signing off with That's My Entertainment. What's yours? And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.